Marc. Welcome to a special edition of Big Apple Hockey. As you can see, we have special guest Jim Behringer from Full Press Hockey with us today. Mark Williams, as you guys know, he recently celebrated his wedding with his lovely new wife Maria. As me and Phil were there to celebrate, it was a great party that Mark and Maria put on. I was very happy to be a part of it. So congratulations to him. He's just taking some time off. But here we are, Jim. It's great to have you on with us. I know for those of you viewers, we kind of connected at the NHL draft, but I believe and had you on as a guest. But this is your first time co-hosting here at Big Apple Hockey, so I appreciate you jumping on with me to do the show this week.
Anthony, always a pleasure, man. You know, doing our spaces, connecting at the draft, even before that. Great to be here in the co-host chair and the co-pilot chair here for Big Apple Hockey. And guys, if you guys haven't been following us along, a lot of the stuff we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks kind of coming true on the ice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess let's start with the New York Rangers. Yesterday, Jim, as you know, the Rangers fall to the Winnipeg Jets, who 15-1 Winnipeg Jets, best team in the NHL. So you know that was a game to watch. It was going to be really their second true test, aside from the Panthers earlier this year. But they fell to the Jets. No shame in that. Obviously, they're a good team. But one of the more important stories here, Jim, is last two games. Rangers, Igor Shesterkin, as you see there, those numbers are not good.
No.
This is for a guy who wants to essentially be the highest paid goalie in the NHL. So that's not something you want to see. And then Mika Zibanejad, who also has the ire of the Ranger fans, not really doing much of anything 5-on-5, Jim. His game after career, actually he had one of the lowest point totals of his career really since he came onto the scene as a true number one center last year. And you know, now this year he looks even worse than he did last year. So you know, something certainly going on there, and they need him to be better. But you know, it really comes back to this final kind of point here: can the Rangers afford their stars to struggle the way they are?
No, we've talked about it. Look, we've said it a couple of times now when we've gotten together and done like our spaces on Twitter. But I'm going to say it to the camera for the first time: this team, since the days of Henrik Lundqvist, rely on their goaltender to win hockey games, and they try to take advantage of the other team's mistakes and try to score goals that way. You saw it yesterday. Again, the Winnipeg Jets, 15-1. Why are the Florida Panthers so good? Why are all the top teams play the way they do? They play a structured game in front of their goaltender. They play defense, and the breakdowns that happen, yes, the goaltender is there to bail them out, but they don't, I don't want to say require or need their goaltender to make every save, but they're making the key saves. And look, Shesterkin can only do so much. Now, his numbers are not great over the last two games, but the team in front of him has not played well either. They got what I think Jonathan Quick had 37 shots against in a 4-0, shutout win over Detroit. So again, the shot total, not good. Your stars are not stepping up outside of, Lafreniere, Trocheck, Panarin. Those guys are playing well. Zibanejad, here's the big thing on him. Over the last couple of years, a lot of people have said this: is he actually a true number one center? Because to me personally, and again, I come across this from the other side of the river, but when I look at this team coming into the season, I thought Vinny Trocheck was the best center on the New York Rangers this year.
Yeah. Kind of circle back on Zibanejad real quick, but a couple of comments that some of our viewers are putting out here. Mike says Toronto, the only team the Rangers have beaten with a winning record. And that's true. I mean, you look at the teams they beat. They beat a decimated Islanders team. They beat the Detroit Red Wings 3 times, who are a bad team. They beat the Penguins, who are a disaster. They beat the Ducks, who, they're a young upcoming team, but they're still a bad team. They beat the Canadiens, who are one of the worst teams in the East. and they beat Ottawa again. Kind of put in the same category as the Islanders right now, like a bubble team. Matter of fact, they're both tied for the last wild card spot. So the Rangers really haven't beaten a good team yet, aside from Toronto. And when they have been tested with good teams, Florida, Winnipeg, Washington, they got beat. And then they got their doors blown off by Buffalo. So, you look at the Rangers record and you see, okay, 9-4 or 1 or 2, whatever they are. And you're like, all right, well, that's a good record. But then when you break it down, like I just did, and it kind of really makes you question, are they a pretender? At least this early on.
I mean, you have to say, that right now they're just a pretender. It's a mirage because, the way guys are playing, the structure in front of your goaltender, and you look at it and you say, okay, well, this has been the knock too, right, on the coaches that have come in, right? Gallant, second-year Gallant, what's he going to do in the follow-up season? This has been the knock on Peter Laviolette everywhere he's been, every other stop before New York.
Yeah.
What's the second year going to be like? He comes in the first year, the structure's there, everybody plays well. Look, I remember last year I heard a lot of people say, why are we playing defense? How come it's a boring game? We're winning playing defense. Where's the offense and all this? That's how you win in the playoffs. That's how good championship teams are built. Now, look, I want to make a comment about the Winnipeg Jets. 15-1. I know there was a lot of hype in the offseason about a Jets team in New York. Guess that hype was supposed to be for the Winnipeg Jets because, let's be honest, the New York Jets stink, and the Winnipeg Jets are 15-1, and they're playing structure and the right guys. And Scott Arneal's not even on this trip, but guys are coming together, good leadership, playing sound hockey. When things don't go their way, they just stick with the system. They're not trying to cheat for offense. And some of the responses from the head coach about Zibanejad's game, you got to go ask him. You're the head coach. You should be seeing some things, and maybe you should be calling out your players a little bit.
No,
that's funny.
Yeah, I know Rangers played for the first pick. Unfortunately for them, they're not going to be nearly bad enough for that to happen. But,
no.
But no, there are some concerns with their team, and mainly, it goes back to Zibanejad has been bad. Let's call it like it is. And this team, what's interesting is when you talk about Igor and you talk about, which we've discussed before, should he get, the contract that he's asking for, and I don't know where Philk is, by the way. I don't know if he thinks the show wasn't going on or whatnot, but he kind of touched on it. And to give Igor an 8-year deal, $11+ million, is it really smart? Because where are the Rangers going to be in 3 years? Chris Kreider's 33, right?
Yep.
While Artemi Panarin's still at the top of his game, he's 33 too. When you look at Zibanejad, the year he had last year and how he looks so far this year, are the wheels falling off the bus there? So if you lock Igor into that deal, and let's say 2 years from now they decide to retool when some of these players age out, now you're stuck with a goalie that you're paying an absurd amount of money to, and you're not ready to win. And at that point, what are you doing with them? You're kind of just wasting your time if they go through a retool. So, I agree with his point of view there, because eventually the window's going to close. You're going to have him there, but they're not going to be a contending team, and he's going to be making all these dollars. So the timeline of it, I get it. They probably have to do it, but I don't think it's going to work out with the amount of years he's going to get and how much time the current Rangers core have left before their window closes.
Well, I think the tone was set by the captain at the beginning of the season. He kind of basically said this was the last dance for this core.
Yeah.
Who says that before a season? Look, now I'm not in the room all the time, right? And I see them from afar, but I pay close attention to the Rangers. But that kind of put my antennas up and said, wait a minute, you're already breaking this thing down. You're still kind of in a window here with a lot of good pieces that are coming along. Not to mention, by the way, besides Shesterkin, who needs a new deal, you have Miller. Keandre Miller is also a free agent that needs an extension, that needs a new contract. So there's a lot of dollars that have to be moved around. And I kind of agree with Phil right there, right? Because what you were saying is I'm looking at the Nashville situation similar to last year. UC Saros, final year of his deal. You weren't sure which way they were going to go. If they don't go on that heater, is UC Saros extended in Nashville? Does he become a trade bait?
Yeah.
Right? Like, does he get moved? Does he sign the extension on July 1st when he was eligible to do it? Like, all that stuff kind of trickled down effect. And now you're seeing the issues what you guys are talking about kind of play out in Nashville. They bring in the aging players. You have a goaltender that's signed for 8 years, and you got rid of a stud that was in your system that, let's be honest, probably is the future, but was not a Barry Trotz guy. But you go to look at the Rangers side of things, like who's coming along that's going to replace Shesterkin and help this team take the next step and keep them around in a tough Metro division. That's why I kind of think you have to pay the goaltender. The problem is again, term and AAV kind of play out in this thing. If you want to go, all right, say you want to go 5 at 12, but again, it's 5-year extension. It's a lot of money, but it's a 5-year contract, which is maybe more doable than an 8-year contract at 12.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know if Shesterkin would agree to a 5.
Right?
He's already. Is he 30 or he's 29 or 30? He's going to want a deal. He's not
7 or 8 on that.
Yeah,
he's going to want 7 or 8. He wants 7 or 8 on it.
Yeah.
If you could get him at 6, that's even better. But
yeah, I agree with that. But before we kind of pivot to the Islanders in our next segment, you look at the Rangers' next couple of games. They got the Sharks tomorrow. I mean, that should be a win. Then they go on the road out west and they play Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. So, Seattle is a game that they should win. Calgary, too, probably is a game that they should win. Vancouver could be a challenging game. And then you have the Oilers with McDavid, Draisaitl. That's always a tough one. We just saw what those two did to the Islanders last night. But, their schedule is going to start to get a slightly a little more difficult, I guess you could say, with, going to the Pacific Northwest, play the Canucks, the Flames, the Oilers. But they absolutely have to beat Seattle and San Jose. I mean, there's no doubt there. They have to win those games.
Oh, 100%. I think you have to win those games. Look, the Sharks are going to be a tough out. They played the Devils tough Sunday night, 1-0, right? Blackwood stood on his head. They got nice young talent, Celebrini. They came back and rallied in Philadelphia playing their system to get a point there. So now they're going to play the Rangers, right? Seattle, again, tough out, but they should beat Seattle. They have the firepower. Again, Vancouver hit or miss. You don't know what Vancouver team you're going to show up. New Jersey was able to shut them out. And then they were able to shut out the Oilers. But then the Flames game in the middle is a very tough game to play because Calgary's playing really well.
They are. They've exceeded expectations so far.
Absolutely. You got good goaltenders, Dustin Wolf and Dan Vladar. So, I mean, but you expect to get, what, 8 points out of this road trip?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Right? That's the expectation.
Yeah.
Right? Out of the next several games, you should get, so you're playing Thursday, obviously tomorrow. You should win that game in Seattle. So that's 4 right there. Vancouver, Edmonton, I don't know, maybe in Calgary, So that's going to be tough.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, they certainly need to start getting better play from Zibanejad. Shesterkin can lift his game a little bit. And then even Trocheck, I feel, can start
I think,
a little bit more.
I think so, too. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. And I think the next thing, too, is real quick before we pivot. Yeah. You look at the kids that are playing, right? The young guy. I hate using the term kids, right? The younger players on the team are really stepping up, like the Coolies, the Kakos, the Hedos.
Absolutely.
Those guys, and Lafreniere's taking the next step in his development, too. Look, the other night I saw the ice time. I forget what game it was where those guys only played like maybe 5 minutes total.
Yeah,
I'm like, all right, so it's their fault that you're losing? Yeah. They're the ones that are generating offense. Yeah. Like, it's their fault that you're losing?
If anything, Zibanejad should be the one that gets stapled to the bench, not Lafreniere and Cooley. I mean, it's...
Yeah. I mean, that's I just want to throw that out there because I'm not sure if the viewers are seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. I'm looking at the stat sheet after the third period, and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm watching this game. I'm like, it's not their fault that they're losing. Like, your veterans need to be sent a message, too. Like, this is what I don't like about coaches. Sometimes these veteran coaches like Laviolette and guys like that is they pick on the young guys, but when the veterans are doing the same thing, but they keep rolling them out there.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of coaches do too. I mean, unfortunately, it's rare when you see a coach, hold a veteran star player accountable. Usually, the scapegoats kind of always go to the younger guys, and that's not right. But that's typically how it goes. But
yeah.
Switching over to the New York Islanders, they have points in 4 straight games. They're tied for the final wild card spot despite all their injuries. Obviously, on Saturday, they blew a 3-1 third period lead to the Devils. But last night, they flipped the script. They come back for down 3-1 from the Oilers, and they grab a point in overtime as they lose 4-3 with Leon Draisaitl scoring the game winner. So what are your takeaways from the Islanders this week? I'll kind of start and say, this is a team that, as I kind of stated before when we talking about the Rangers' schedule and who they've beaten, they're decimated with injuries. I mean, they've been without Duclair for, I would say, his timeline was usually 4 to 6 weeks. I feel like it's been at least 3 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably still another 3 weeks out. Barzell 4 to 6 weeks. Pellick's out 4 to 6 weeks. Mike Riley took that scary hit in the game against Buffalo where it looked like he was going to be carted off on a stretcher. He's out indefinitely. He was actually just placed on IR today. So they don't have him. They don't have their starting 3 left defensemen. And really, it's Ilya Sorokin that's kind of keeping them afloat right now. And Kyle Palmieri is driving the Islanders' offense. He's kind of stepping up big when you need guys to step up in this moment. He scored again last night. He's got 7 goals, 14 points in 16 games. So Palmieri's playing well. Maxim Siplikov leads the team in assists. He's got 10 points. So he's been pulling his weight. And as Angie says here, Isaiah George has certainly stepped up. Patrick Waugh trusts him. He's been getting a lot of minutes. So there certainly are some bright spots led by Sorokin. And, like I said, Kyle Palmieri, Brock Nelson, and Anders Lee. I mean, Anders Lee had 2 big goals last night. Made it 3-2, and he tied the game. I think he's got 6 or 7 goals on the year. That's probably like a 30-goal pace. So, Lee getting back to that level would go a long way. But, I think all things considered, the Islanders have been playing pretty well given their injuries and where they are. And before I kind of hand it over to you, get your thoughts. The way my train of thought right now is, if the Islanders could stay where they are right now, like in a wild card spot, tied for a wild card spot, 1 point out, 1 point ahead. If they can hold that level until they get their reinforcements back, Duclair, Pellick, Barzell, I think they'll be in good shape.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with that last statement. 100%. I think we talked about it last week too. We were saying just tread water, just stay within striking distance, right? Keep it close with all these injuries. And Isaiah George, to me, I mean, this kid comes in, like, there wasn't much fanfare of him down in Bridgeport, down in AHL. He wasn't doing any of what we were seeing here at the big club. And that's sometimes all you need is the opportunity to play and show what you can do and be put in the right position. And look, he stepped in, decimated Islanders club. Samuel Bullock was supposed to step up. He didn't, send him back down, and they bring up this kid, and he's kind of really hasn't missed a beat. He's picked up that defense because of the play of Noah Dobson, who has not played really well this season. He didn't play particularly well in that Devil game, I'm going to be honest. Some sloppy play, some sloppy turnovers in that one. Again, I think that's like the biggest thing for me is the Islanders still have not been able to close games out when they have 2-goal leads. Right, they get 3-1 with about 5 minutes left. It's 4:29 left in the third period. They gave up 2 goals that allowed the tying goal to happen in the overtime goal. But again, you rally back against a good Edmonton team. Yeah, McDavid picked up 4 points. Yeah, Draisaitl scored the winner. There's some tough calls that went your way in that game, sure. But again, this is what the Islanders' MO was last year too, picking up those overtime points that kept them in the race, that allowed him to get in that top 3 in the Metro Division. So you pick up points, you're playing well. Like we said, guys had to step up. Lee's stepping up. Horvat can still go to another level. Palmieri's playing well. So they're treading water. Just keep it within striking distance. And then you get your bodies back. You get healthy. I still think they're going to try to add a defenseman. They're going to try to add somebody just to help out because they need something here. But the fact that Ilya Sorokin is playing at this level, because let's be honest, if Ilya Sorokin's not playing on Saturday night against New Jersey, that's probably a dominating Devils win the way they were playing against the Islanders.
Yep, absolutely. And I think with the Islanders, old habits are coming back into their game, and they've blown a couple of leads now already this year. And that game against the Devils, they should have won that game. And, and unfortunately, the Devils scored that second goal, and then 6-on-5, the Islanders are a disaster. When the other team pulls their goalie and it's 6-on-5, I don't know if they kind of hold their sticks too tight because they're playing not to lose, but you kind of felt it coming on that tying goal even before it happened. But nonetheless, they picked up an important point with the Oilers. You take that. You're down 2 goals in the third period. If you tell me you're going to get a point out of that game, you got to be happy. Now they got a big game in Vancouver tomorrow, and then after that on to Seattle. So hopefully the Islanders can kind of pick up some more points. But before we get to our Bar Talk topic, which I think will be your first time doing Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk, let's get a read from our sponsor.
Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame moneyline on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever to answer.
I'm going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one.
Well, welcome to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. Well, you gauge whether or not a beer, shot, or round. I know I don't do the intro as good as Marc. I got to hand it to Marc. He has all his gaffes. But this is my first time kind of controlling the levers here, if you will. So just bear with me as I pull up our Bar Talk topics today. And Jim, as you know, you kind of get the gist of it. If you feel like you strongly agree, it's a round. If you're kind of in the middle, it's a beer. And if you didn't think that's just totally out of left field, no way, it's a shot. So starting with the New York Rangers, as we talked about, Mika Zibanejad is struggling mightily so far this season. He's signed through 2030 at an $8.5 million AAV with a no movement clause. Details, 29-30, 7 days prior to the trade deadline, the no movement clause turns into a modified. The question is, the Rangers should explore moving on from Mika Zibanejad.
It's a good topic. It's a good question. It's probably something they're going to consider, but I'm going to go shot here because I don't see anything right now. I just don't see them moving on from Zibanejad. I think they're going to have to, live with the fact that right now he's struggling. He's going through some I want to say growing pains, but going through what players go through. And you know what? It happens, right? A lot of the top guys go through this and they have to deal with it. And you're signed. That's the problem, right? The contract. No move clause, signed through 2030. It's you never want to say no contract is unmovable because Wayne Gretzky got traded.
Yes.
But this is very tough to move, in my opinion.
So I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen, but the wording here, they should explore. So for that reason, I'm going to say round. I mean, I think they got to look into moving this guy. You look at his numbers last year. He underperformed. This year, he kind of looks even worse. And granted, he can come out of it. But even if he does, he signed for 3 more years after this year at a high AAV. At some point, his game is going to fall off a cliff. Whether or not they're already at that point and it's happening or not, eventually it is going to come to that. So for me, I think they should, but like you said, it's probably not very realistic. Although at the end of the season, and this is where me and Marc get into arguments because he acts like no movement clause. It's impossible to move somebody, but I feel differently. If they approached him and said, look, Mika, we want to move on from you. We're going to rebuild. We're going to retool. You're not in our plans anymore. I highly doubt the guy's going to be like, all right, well, tough. No, I'm staying. I think at that point, it's human nature. When you're not wanted, you're going to want to go somewhere where you are. So I think he'd be like, all right, I'll wave. Send me. Here's where I'll go. And work with me and send me somewhere. So
I'll say this. I'm going to still stand on my position of shot with it, but I will go back to what Tampa did after they made to the third straight Stanley Cup final. They went to Ryan McDonough and said, look, we have to move you because of cap reasons. Where do you want to go? Like they basically, he had a full new move clause with Tampa, and then he got traded to Nashville.
Yeah.
Look, Sergachev just got moved, right? So guys can get moved, but again, is it realistic? I'm gonna stay on my position right now.
Well, moving to a player that plays in New York that actually is meeting expectations this year is Islanders' Maxim Siplikov. Kind of a little bit of an unknown when he came over from Russia. 5 points in his last 6 games, 10 points in 16 games. Leads the New York Islanders with 8 assists. Right now, he's on pace for 51 points. Question: Maxim Siplikov will reach 50 points this season.
Go around on this. I like this. I like the way he's performing right now. I mean, that's good. That's a good pace for a kid, especially for a team that needs offense. For somebody who's going to be driving a line, again, we talked about it earlier with the Islanders. These are the kind of guys you need to step up right now to keep you within striking distance until your horses come back. And even when your horses come back, maybe he still is in the position to be putting these points up, and he's winning the coach's trust. So I'm going to go round here.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go round 2. He's playing with Kyle Palmieri and Brock Nelson, which because of the injuries of Barzell, you could say that they're the Islanders' top line right now. So he's playing with good players. He gets power play minutes. He's a big body. He's a rookie to the NHL, but he's not green as he's been playing in a men's league for a while. So men's league in the KHL. So he knows the game well. And I think he's going to continue to be in situations where he's going to put up points. So now, granted, he's just projected to 51 points, so he's just at that teetering level. But I think based on his usage, I think he gets there. And if he does, 50 points in your first season, and it didn't cost the team anything to get. They just signed him. That was a great find by Lou Lamoriello. So we'll see if that play continues. But right now, if you're an Islander fan, you have to be happy with his play.
Absolutely, 100%. And again, it'd be one of Lou's later finds in his career because he's missed the ball on some. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Staying in the Metropolitan Division, the Capitals' Alex Ovechkin, 8 goals in his last 7 games. Absolute heater after only having 2 in his first 7. He has 10 goals on the year in 14 games. After his horrendous start last year, it looked like he was heading that direction this year, but he has caught fire, and now he's really feeling it. So Alex Ovechkin will break Wayne Gretzky's record this year.
Oh, man. You know what? For fun, I'm going to go round here. Just the way he – because you know what? The way he's playing – I think it's like 31 now or 32.
I think so. Yes,
like something like that.
Goals, yeah.
Yeah, so something like that away from breaking Gretzky's record. Yeah. If he can keep doing what he's doing, with the Capitals, and again, you're having Dylan Strome contribute, you're having McMichael contribute, you're having different guys contribute, not just outside of Ovechkin, but Ovechkin's starting to heat up in his house again, and that's what we didn't see last year, right? Like on the power play, he's starting to heat up. He's finding that circle. even actually, he only has one power play goal. The rest of them have been 5-on-5, but he's shooting from his position, and he's putting the puck on net, and the shot's lethal, and it's the best shot in all of hockey. Matthews is getting up there when he's healthy, but think about it. I mean, I know a lot of people thought this was the year it was going to happen. Everybody said most likely next year, but if he stays on this pace, why not?
Yeah, I'm gonna go round 2. I mean, he's at 863, so he needs 30, 31 to tie, I believe. And I mean, you're telling me, and he's played 14 games, so he can't score 31 goals in the next 5 games or so. I mean, going into the year when you looked at it and said he needed 42 goals to break it, I'm like, based on last year, even though he ended hot, I'm like, I don't know, but he looks re-energized. He looks re-energized this year, and I don't think it's any coincidence that it's because right now the Capitals look like a good team. Last year I know they got into the playoffs, but let's face it, I mean, they were a joke of a playoff team. They were negative. They barely get whatever. I don't have to explain that, and I think that weighed on him. Bad team. His energy wasn't there. This year he looks like he's 39, but he looks like he's 30 years old again. I mean, he's flying out there. It looks like he's having more fun. And let's face it too. I mean, he could say what he wants. He's success, yada yada yada. He wants that record. And he wants to do it this year, and I think he's motivated to do it. So I'm going to join you with a round 2. And listen, it would be great to see. I mean, if we could witness history this year, and if he does do it, let's say when would you project that he does it? Like March, like end of the year?
I mean, if he stays on the pace that he's at, I think the projection right now is like February, end of February. But even if he gets off the pace a little bit, I would say March. Yeah. I'd say March he would do it, right? Like that's when, like if he's getting close, like at the start of the new year, coming out of like 4 Nations and stuff, like it's going to just be the Ovechkin show. Like everybody's just going to want to watch this guy, see if he can get the record. That's what it was like when he was getting close to Howe. Right? Like it was like every game was a must watch for the Capitals. Yeah.
Well, moving on to another sniper who is on a little bit of a heater himself, although he's day-to-day right now, is Tage Thompson in Buffalo. 11 goals this season, one off the leader at 12, which I believe is Cole Caulfield. So Buffalo's Tage Thompson will challenge for the Rocket Richard Trophy.
Shot for me.
Okay.
Shot for me. Right. Too many good scorers out there ahead of Tage Thompson for me. I mean, I think Caulfield's probably the guy. If anything, I think Caulfield will be the guy to do it. But I mean, look, Matthews hasn't even gotten heated up yet. McDavid, Draisaitl out there. McKinnon's another guy. Moose ran in on that team. I personally, I think for me, I think it's a shot for Tage Thompson again. Injuries aside, can Buffalo keep the pace? Can he keep that pace? I just think there's too many good snipers out there. Again, right? Like Ovechkin, you could put in that category too. Like if he continues to play the way he's playing, I mean, again, I don't know if we're going to see 70, but I mean, tough for me because, I'm not buying into the Buffalo Sabres. It's good for them to have Tage Thompson back at this pace. Back scoring goals because he had a dismal season last year. Like, let's be honest, he did. Yeah. So it's good to see him scoring again. I'm just not sure he's going to be challenging for the Rocket Richard Trophy.
It's fair. I'm going to go beer on this just because, I mean, we don't know exactly what someone challenge, what does that mean? Is he going to finish 5th, within 4 goals and 5 goals, etc.? But, this is a guy that did have 47 goals 2 years ago. So, that's not far off from 50. And even though there's some guys over the last couple of years, like Matthews, who almost got 70, guys who score 60, if you get to that 50 goal level, you could possibly still be in that mix for the Rocket Richard, depending on the type of years other guys around you have. So, if let's say he does have a career year and he scored 50, it's possible that could be, end up being 2nd or 3rd. And for me, like 2nd or 3rd is technically challenging for it, right? So I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's going to win it. I agree with you there. I think Caulfield will end up having more than him. Like you said, Leon Draisaitl, a guy like him, that he could just score at will at times. Never discount Ovechkin, McDavid, Pasternak. So there's a lot of good goal scorers, but I do think Tage Thompson has the ability to score 50. So because of that, I'll say Beer. But with that said, I'd be shocked if he actually won.
I mean, I'd be shocked if he's actually in like the top 3 at the end of the year. Like,
Okay.
I would be really, like, for me personally, I would be really shocked if he was.
Yeah. Well, staying in the Atlantic Division, Jim, a team that has kind of not met expectations, the Boston Bruins. They're 8-7-2 this season, 5-4-1 in their last 10. Jeremy Swayman, off that contract dispute, has not been himself. There's been talk in Boston that, do they need to make a change with the roster or a coaching change? Leads us to the question, the Bruins' Jim Montgomery's seat is getting hot.
That's round. It was hot coming into the season.
Yeah.
It was hot coming into the season. That's all you heard. Like, people, like fans from Boston saying Jim Montgomery is going to be the first coach to get fired. Jim Montgomery is going to be the first coach to get fired because he doesn't have a contract extension, right? This is the final year of his contract. This team is underperformed. They had the best record, won the President's Trophy, lost in the first round, up 3-1. Last year, I think they overachieved, to be honest, because I think a lot of people thought they'd take a step back. Get to the second round. Second round, and they lost to Florida again, and then they come out the way they've come out. But they beat the Leafs in the first round and probably should have lost to the Leafs if the Leafs could play defense in games 3 and 4. And it would have been another first-round exit for this team.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say round. But when you really think about it, though, I put it more on Don Sweeney than I do Montgomery.
Yeah, I agree.
Manager, right? Montgomery can only do so much with the roster that he has. And, Sweeney traded Marc, which that was fine. They didn't need to continue to have 2 number ones. But, I mean, what else? The Bruins, their roster, he didn't really add any, well, actually, I shouldn't. That's not fair to say. He signs Zadorov and Elias Lindholm. So those were 2 pretty top-tier free agents. So I guess I kind of just contradicted myself there. So he did add some good pieces. But when you look at that team overall, though, it still leaves you wanting more. I mean, outside of Pasternak and an aging Marchand, I mean, what do you, Charlie Coyle? I mean, you lost to Brusque, Pavel Zacha. I mean, he's an okay player, but I just think that the Bruins roster isn't as deep as it once was, and Montgomery can only do so much. So I'll say round, but I do think Sweeney holds some culpability for their start as well.
I 100% agree that Sweeney's 100% responsible for the roster and the lack of players on this team. Like, I'm going to be honest, they brought in Elias Lindholm. That was the biggest lock and the worst kept secret in the National Hockey League at the trade deadline. Everybody knew he was going to try to get a number 1 center, and I don't even think Elias Lindholm is their number 1 center. Nikita Zadorov is massively disappointed being up in Boston. Now, again, it's his first year, and, first year, coming to a new team, new system. But if you look at what Don Sweeney has done to this roster, and you look at the drafts that they've had, especially that 2015 draft, go back to it. 3 first-round picks in a row, missed on every one of them.
Yeah, they passed up on Barzell. That was just mind-numbingly dumb.
Yeah.
It really was.
It was dumb. It was really dumb. I think Kyle Connor was in that draft, I think.
He was, yeah. Yep. Yeah.
They missed on like a lot of good talent that they could have had.
Barzell, Connor, and instead they opted for Jacob Zaboral.
Zach Senyshyn, and Jake DeBrusk.
Yeah.
All 3 are no longer with the organization.
Oh my God, that's bad. That's bad. But Jim, moving on to the Western Conference, Colorado Avalanche. We know their issues in goal. However, they are getting a big piece back as Valery Nichushkin, who will return to the Avs lineup on Friday, November 15th, confirmed by head coach Jared Bednar, completing his 6-month ban from violating the rules of the Stage 2 of the NHLPA Player Assistance Program last spring. Valery Nichushkin in his time with the Avs so far, 93 goals, 107 assists, 200 points in 289 games. Was fantastic for them last year in Dallas in the first round before he had to leave and got his suspension. Valery Nichushkin's Valery Nichushkin will turn around the Avs season?
I'll go beer here. I'm going to go beer because they're still missing, like, I believe, they need, Lehkonen, I think Cotter, not Cotter,
Yeah.
Ross Colton needs to come back.
Yeah, he's out.
They need to get, Drouin needs to come back. I think he's going to help. And I'm going to help him. I'm going to say this. I don't know if it's round, but I'm going to go with beer here because when he's in the lineup, when Lehkonen's in the lineup, they have depth outside of the two big horses.
Yep.
They are very unstoppable. And when he was a great find by McFarland and Joe Sakic coming back from Dallas, it was a great addition. Same with Lehkonen, right? They give them depth on the second line, something they've needed for years. The goaltending is getting better. It's still not where it needs to be, but it's a piece that's going to make the Avs a better team in that division.
Yeah, I agree there, Beer. Outside of McKinnon and Rantanen, with like Colton hurt and Duran hurt, I mean, even a guy like Miles Wood hurt, they lack that depth. And getting back Nichushkin, while he's not clearly on the level of Rantanen and McKinnon, it's still a higher end piece that's gonna just give them another weapon. So I think he will certainly help, but as some other heroes, Matt and Rangers Central have pointed out, the goaltending is still a huge issue. They claimed Kaapo Kahkonen off waivers from Winnipeg. He played one game, wasn't good, waived him again. Now he's back in Winnipeg. Georgiev is just having an abysmal year.
Mm-hmm.
Eustace and Noonan is their guy, and he's still relatively green. So, I think goaltending is still a huge issue, but again, Nichushkin will at least give them more firepower up front and help them, at least try to win some of these games.
Yeah, 100%. I've always liked what he's brought to that team, especially in their cup run. I mean, you look at that second line, even when Kadri was there. I mean, Nichushkin and you had Landeskog playing and Lehkonen. They were a very dangerous team, and they had different pieces that could make this team better. They still need to get, Makar's banged up a little bit, Tays banged up a little bit. If they can get those guys healthy, guys are coming back from injury. But again, like you said, Miles Wood, Colton, if they can get their entire roster 100% healthy, because I am not counting Gabriel Landeskog this season at all. That's just me, because he's not even a roster player. But the guys that they had rostered that are coming back that got hurt, then when they have their entire complement together, then they're going to be a really dangerous team, especially offensively.
Well, staying in the Central Division, Jim, candidate to make the Four Nations team for Team USA, Matthew Boldy, 9 goals in 15 games this season. His prior career high, 31 goals 2 years ago, 29 in 75 games last year. Wild's Matt Boldy will reach 40 goals for the first time this season.
You know what? I'll probably go beer here. I think I'm going to go beer here because, 40 goals is a tough plateau because once you get to 40, they expect you to do it every year.
Yeah.
Right? Like we've seen it in this area. I mean, the fact that, bring it to the Islanders for a minute, the fact that Nelson's been so consistent hitting 30 goals the last couple of seasons, they expect you to do it. They're going to need him. If they're going to make the playoffs and stay in a position, they're going to need him to hit 40 because Kaprizov and Boldy have been carrying this team. But for me, I'm going to go beer here. I'm not sure he gets there.
So I'm actually going to go around. I'm a big believer in Boldy. I think scoring 31 goals in his first full season 2 years ago was great. He's got a great shot, great release. I mean, hell, he's tied with Kaprizov right now for the team leading goals with 9. I don't know off the top of my head, but 9 goals in 15 games, I would imagine he's probably pacing for more than 40 right now.
He would be pacing more than 40.
He's certainly on pace for more than 40. And you know what? I think he does it. I think he's that good. He's a great player, great contract. I think he's motivated for his own GM, Bill Guerin, to pick him for the Four Nations team. But yeah, I think he does it. I like this player a lot, and I think aside from Kaprizov, I think he's, the Wild's second best player.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's definitely their second best player for sure. I mean, though the lineup's really gone through Faber, Kaprizov, and Boldy right now. I mean, that's how they're winning games, and their goaltending has been lights out.
Yeah. Well, moving on to the Pacific Division, to a guy whose name has been in trade rumors the last, I don't know, I would say the last year, but Anaheim's Trevor Zegras, as you see.
Does he even play anymore?
Yeah.
Does he even play in this league? MIA, baby.
Yeah.
Way MIA.
But you see the numbers here in his stat line: 1 goal, 2 assists so far this season, a dismal 3 points. Trevor Zegras needs a change of scenery badly.
Round, 100% round. Like, I mean, maybe 3 rounds on me. I don't know. I mean, like, seriously, like, to me, talking with people around Anaheim, when they were in here playing New York last year, it felt like it was going to be Vetrano, Zegras, something else was going to New York that helped this team. He needs to get out of Anaheim. He is not a Pat Verbeek guy. He may not even be a Greg Cronin guy that's over there. I mean, it dates back to last year, the contract extension, contract talks to hold out, wanting the money, believing he was worth that kind of money, missing training camp, missing, preseason action, then getting hurt. He just needs to change the scenery. I think the timeline in Anaheim is just not working out. There's so many other guys that are passing him by. Leo Carlson, Owen Zellweger, Mason McTavish, guys like that are just passing him by, and he's becoming an afterthought. Look, when Anaheim was in New Jersey, I didn't even notice him on the ice. Outside of warm-up, I didn't even notice him on the ice.
Yeah. I agree with this too. It's around, and as some other have said here, I don't know if it's just change of scenery. I think that Zegras maybe needs to change his line of thinking and his and how he approaches the game. And I said it on this channel a couple of times over the last year or so when we've been talking about him, and I've kind of said, I don't know if he's a guy that you win with. Like, I don't know.
No.
When you look at how he plays, I don't know if he's a guy you look at a roster and be like, I'm going to win a cup with that guy as a core player. I think it's becoming clear he's super talented, but I think he's more of a complementary piece. And I mean, young kids, they like watching him play. He has that SoCal look, oddly fitting enough. That's where he plays. But, he's with the Michigan and the stick handling, and I think it's all flashy and looks good, but I don't know if
it doesn't win hockey.
Yeah, if that's gonna win you hockey games. And I think that's Verbeek's issue with him, and I think that could be what other general managers may feel about him too. So,
and don't forget what he's got 2 years. He's got a year left after this year on his deal, right?
Yeah, I believe so. But the maddening thing about it is, as I just said, he is skilled, but I mean, this is a guy that's put up back-to-back 60-point seasons in the NHL, and I mean that's not easy to do. If you're in the National and you're scoring 60 points in back-to-back years, clearly you're a good hockey player. You have a lot of offensive talent. But since then, I mean, he was injured last year, only played 31 games, so like it's hard to judge. But this year, it's just he's not. I don't see it, and.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, we heard a lot about this about McKinnon too before he took off. He had the breakout season. He won Rookie of the Year. Kind of was just mellowing in the wings. What is he? What kind of player? And then he took off. But that's because he was training with the right guys. He understood his role, right?
Yeah.
Zegras needs to get out of Anaheim. As much as he's a marketable player, I bring it to New Jersey, right? Jack Hughes, marketable player. He's got that SoCal look, right? But he's playing defense. He's understanding, there's other parts to the game that you can improve that'll help your offensive ability to take off. I just think there's too much tension there for this to work anymore. It's time for just decide, let's just move on, figure out who he wants. But the problem is the Ducks, I think, only have a retention space left because they're eating money on other contracts. So if they try to move Gibson out, they can't retain on Zegras. They would have somebody would have to take that full salary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's certainly not a Lou kind of player. I think everyone
No,
knows that. But
absolutely not.
But I wonder about the Rangers and Chris Drury. I mean, offering Kakko for Zegras. I mean, because
It's on the table last year.
yeah. I mean, for the why not? Because I mean, at this point, Kakko isn't going to be the player that I think everyone thought he'd be. So, I mean, even if you make that move and Zegras still sucks, you didn't really lose too much. You know what I'm saying? So,
and he's got 1 year left on his deal, and you don't really have to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, some Ranger Matt says absolutely not, and I get it because Zegras,
I get it.
But I think at this point is the rationale between that is Zegras' ceiling right now. I think despite how highly touted Kakko was, I still think Zegras' ceiling at this current moment is higher than Kakko's ceiling. So that's
I think we've seen his ceiling, but we've also seen Kakko develop into a good third line player in the National Hockey League, which something nobody really expected when he was drafted that high. I don't think a lot of people thought he was going to be like that, but he's found a role playing with Hedel and Cooley right now. So that's where he's been. Like, that's his role. He gets his role.
You know, Lou would have this guy wearing a pair of cement shoes within a week. There's no way.
Patrick Waugh would even staple him to the bench.
Yeah.
For the mistakes that he makes in Anaheim, he probably would be healthy scratch for at least 3 games, if not more, to be like, you can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, even if he tried to Michigan in practice, he's taking laps. Like, you're not doing that.
Yeah,
like, you're not like Torts puts up with it. Brindamore puts up with it.
Yeah.
But those guys execute when those players do it.
I mean,
he hasn't shown it.
I mean, Islander players can't even wear high jersey numbers because he doesn't like the individuality of it. So
yeah, exactly. Lou is not like. There's only been a handful of players in Lou's time to ever wear high numbers.
Yeah. No, honestly, he only allows it if you're a veteran. Like, for instance, if Tavares would have stayed on the island, he would have been allowed to wear 91 just because he's a star player and he'd been there. So he does allow it in certain situations. But
Yager got to keep 68. Dougie Gilmore, when he got to go to New Jersey, kept 93. Yeah. And McGillney kept 89. That was it. Like, that was it. Before
we move on to the last Bar Talk topic, Zegras kind of reminds me of Rob Schremp, like just all hands. And I mean, granted, Schremp never came anywhere close to having a 60-point season, so I guess you could say Zegras is still the better player. But just in terms of like the hands aspect and like the flashy showiness of it all, Schremp was kind of similar to Zegras in that regard.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, like, again, Zegras had those 2 good seasons early on. Then he wanted to get paid. Yeah. You know, I think that's why Pat Verbeek was very, very hesitant on giving him the money and the contract, because Zegras tried to bet on himself. I think Pat Verbeek wanted to get him locked in, and that was the big arguing point. And I think, you know, we're seeing why, you know, players and teams sometimes, you know, they clash, and there's a reason why certain guys aren't with certain organizations anymore.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And lastly, Jim, as you know, the NHL is inducting their class of 2024 NHL Hall of Fame inductees. Jeremy Roenick, one guy in particular, Pavel Datsyuk. Detroit Red Wings Pavel Datsyuk inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. 304 goals, 614 assists, 918 points in 953 games. Pavel Datsyuk is the most underrated player in this millennium.
Wow, okay. Most underrated player in the millennium. Might be the most underappreciated player.
Yeah.
Wow, underrated. There's a lot of guys that could fall into that category, though.
Yeah.
I might go. I don't know if I'm at shot, but I might go. I don't know if I'm all the way at round, but I'm not all the way at shot.
Yeah,
I might be in the middle. I think I'm at beer. I think I'm in the middle here on this one, because the way he came in, right? He won a Stanley Cup rookie year. He developed. He became a great 2-way player. He won a Selke, multiple Selkies, multiple
Yeah.
Lady Bings,
Yeah.
won another Stanley Cup, won a gold medal. The moves that he made, like, I don't know if you could say he was underrated as a player.
That's just what I was gonna say. I mean, this is Mark's question. Mark kind of squeezed this in here. I don't know if I would say he's underrated. I mean, he was
a magic man for a reason.
Yes,
So I might go to shot on that. I'm gonna change my answer and go to shot.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I don't think he was underrated at all. I think this is a guy that was when you talked about some of the best players in the NHL, over that
Time period.
Yeah, mid 2000s. Like I think he was up there. The best set of hands I've seen. I mean, they always say he could deke a guy in a phone booth. His hands were so incredibly
silky smooth.
This is a guy, he constantly made goaltenders look just absolutely foolish. His patented Datsuk move that he first pulled off, I think it was on Marty Turco, where he just basically undressed Turco so bad he might as well have been in the locker room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and he ended up doing that to a lot of different goalies. He was absolutely incredible.
I think perfect player to go in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Just a great player. I mean, one of the best to ever do it. I mean, look, you could say maybe like when he was on that Detroit team at times, he may be underrated on that Detroit team because of the Hall of Famers that were on that team. But then when it became him and Zetterberg's team, no way. This guy, everybody wanted to emulate this guy. Everybody wanted to be like Pavel Datsyuk. He developed a two-way game. He could still score goals. Again, like I said, he won. He's a quadruple club member. He's done it all, right? Stanley Cup, World Junior. He's won World Championships. Like, he's done it all. Like, he is a monster of a player and one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, he won 4 Lady Bings, 3 Selkies, so
and both awards at the same time.
Yeah. I don't think he was underrated. I think I gotta go.
When you talk about guys that are underrated, guys like Louis Eriksson come to mind as underrated players.
Yeah. I agree with that. Louis Eriksson, Franz Nielsen.
Nielsen was guys like that, the unsung heroes, the guys you really don't talk about too much. Those are the guys that are underrated. Like, you think of those Dallas, like, real quick, just stay here. Think of those Dallas Stars teams in the late 90s.
Yeah.
You would say Yuri Lettinen was underrated.
Yeah, Yuri Lettinen, he was a Selke caliber player. Absolutely. Yeah. Mark's asking, what was his best shootout? His floater or the simple deke backwards?
They were both disgusting.
Yeah. The move, the Marty Turco move, that move, I think
the one where he pulls it back, slides it, and the goaltender just looks like he's that move is the best because the net's wide open and all he does is just put it home.
Yeah, that's the move he used on Turco, and he used it on a bunch of other goalies too. He beat with it. I mean, he just made them look absolutely silly.
He bring it all the way to the left and then just drag it back.
Yeah,
and then the net was open and he just put it home.
Yeah. Like you said, they called him the Magic Man for the reason. He was well deserved that he got in the Hall.
I got to ask you a question before we get out of here.
Yeah.
I want to ask this because this is coming up on my timeline. Since we're on the topic of Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Do you agree that next year there should be already 4 locks for the Hall of Fame? Because if you look at the class, it's Keith, Price, Thornton, Chara, and there's one other that's eligible next year. They're already saying Chara, Thornton, Price, and Keith are already locks.
I'm going to answer this and just simply say Alexander Mogilny.
Absolutely.
How is Mogilny not in the Hall of Fame yet?
I agree. 100,000%. I agree 100,000%. I don't understand how Alexander Mogilny is not in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
It's criminal.
It is.
It's criminal that he's not.
It's criminal.
I mean, I'm so glad that Jeremy Roenick finally got in, but I think
took long enough.
Yeah, I think you could have made a case that Mogilny could have deserved to get in before Hronek. I mean, if someone said that, they wouldn't be out of line. Like,
No,
they're both deserving of it, but I can't for the life of me understand how Alexander Mogilny isn't in the Hall of Fame.
he's got all the numbers, 1,000 points, Stanley Cup, quadruple gold club, did it all, defected, like set the tone for. And even if you ask the Russian players, they're like, "How is this guy not in?"
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
And if you think about it, he had 2 careers. The one in Buffalo, he went to Vancouver, kind of just like it was okay there. But then when he came back to New Jersey, won a cup.
Yep.
Then he took off in Toronto. I still criminal to me how he's not in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. Well, that does it for Big Apple Hockey Bar Talk, where we judge which players or which topics deserve a shot, beer, or round. So, Jim, glad to have you on it for this. This next topic, Marc threw it in here. I'm going to highlight it. I mean, I know sometimes it's clearly not talking politics, obviously, but it's just so he wants to discuss what NHL player would make the best U.S. president.
Wow.
Off the top of my head, I'm going to say Sidney Crosby. And I say it because he's obviously captain, one of the best captains, I think, of all time. He's always, even when he's like upset or had a bad, his team lost, he always talks to the media. He never has an attitude. He gives open and honest answers to their questions. This is a guy that does so much great stuff for the community. Great ambassador for the game. Actually, I'm reminded of the story that kind of went viral on social media a couple of years ago. I don't know, maybe when I say it, you'll trigger their memory, but they were playing in the Garden, and he was in the penalty box, and like a Ranger fan was just chirping him and just giving him so much trash. And after the game, he signed a stick, and on the stick he wrote, hey, he wrote great chirps. Take it easy on me next time. And he signed it, and he had someone track down the fan, and he gave him that stick. And I just think that just goes to show like what a quality person that he is. So that's my pick.
Sticking on that story, I think I saw something this year when he was in Detroit. Somebody had his old junior jersey, and the guy, he noticed it, had the trainer grab the jersey, they brought it in, and then he signed it for the kid who had it.
Yeah.
So, Crosby, complete diplomat on all cases. I think he would make a great U.S. president. Unfortunately, he's Canadian. So, but if we're taking that rule out of play, taking that rule out of play, I mean, are we talking former players too, or are we just talking current, like active players?
He didn't specify.
Because who I would say would make a great U.S. president if he's not active anymore would be Nicholas Lindstrom.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just the way he carried himself, like the way he talked, melatonin, but is understood. Like even after losses, like you say, same thing with Crosby, right? That's great. Biz would be great too. Biz would be awesome. I was gonna say Subban because he knows how to handle himself on TV.
Yeah.
But getting back to Nick Lindstrom, just always carried himself the right way, whether the Red Wings won or lost. Never really showed the frustration. Always handled himself the right way. Just come off complete class act, 100%. Like just did everything for the kids, the team, rallied the troops. Was a great leader. To me, I think Nick Lindstrom comes to mind as like great captains, and I think he would make a good U.S. president too.
Yeah, I know. He was actually had the nickname too a little bit, the perfect human, Nicholas.
Yeah. So I mean, like guys like that, like how could you go wrong with guys like that?
No, you can't. But I guess I don't know how much time you have. If you want to just at this point, we usually take a couple of questions, kind of.
All right, let's see what the questions got. Let's see who's got random topics. Let's do it.
Yeah. So this State of Survival asking, does Johnny Gaudreau make the Hall of Fame?
Good question. I mean, I mean, look, they honored him the other night. If you guys didn't watch it, they did honor Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau with the Hockey Hall of Fame. So it was really nice, touchy ceremony. I mean, he might get in. I'm not sure if he will get in. I think it's a might for me, but I hope he does. Like, I think that would be kind of cool just to have him in there.
Just to honor him,
Right.
Like, for instance, I mean, he should, like, the MLB should put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame.
Right, exactly.
And he's not here anymore. I mean, but then again, he played a long career and deserved it anyway. With Gaudreau, it would be more of like an honor type thing because he didn't play long enough to really have the numbers for it. But when you break it down, 20 points shy of point per game over his career, 763 games played, 743 points. So that's pretty good.
That's really good. I mean, what he did and let's not forget what he did on the international stage, because there are guys in there that have not won Stanley Cups. This guy was a leader for Team USA at World Juniors, World Championships. Guys look up to him. Again, a good leader. So I think, I mean, definitely U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame, no doubt. He'll be there. Maybe in time in the Hockey Hall of Fame, but why not, right?
Yeah. And he was, at the time of his tragic death, he was, 31? So, I mean, you imagine 31, he was already he probably would have been over 1,000 points.
1,000 points, point per game player, easily. And and again, like we've talked about, him and Monahan had magic in Calgary.
Yeah, they did. Mike is saying, "Do we see Rumpy again?" Referring to how he was sent down.
I don't think so. I don't. To me personally, I think just let the kid season in the NHL. Let him develop his overall game, and don't just turn this kid into a fighter. He can be an enforcer on a rink, but let him evolve his hockey ability, because he can be a hockey player.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, similar to Edstrom, he has the size. I think Edstrom's more skilled. I think Rumpy needs to work on some more things, but I mean, there's no doubt he's a fan favorite. I do think he could be a pretty useful player. I just think there are aspects of his game that he still needs to grow. Wicked saying Cole Eiserman, Gabriel Perreault, Ryan Leonard, Jamie Higgins, early Hoey Baker finalist favorites.
Man, all good players.
Yeah,
all good players, man.
All good players.
All great players. I mean, I think Eiserman's having a great season. Leonard's having a great, all these guys are having a great season. I'll probably go Perreault because I've seen him the most. I mean, I've seen Leonard too as well. I haven't seen Eiserman or Higgins as much, but I'll probably go Perreault just because. That's my answer.
Yeah, I mean, Higgins, I'm looking now, Higgins for a freshman, he's got 11 points in 8 games for Boston College. Let's see if that leads. No, so Perreault leads the team with 13 points in 8 games.
Yeah.
Higgins got 11. Ryan Leonard has 8. So, I mean, that's a good trio right there.
Yeah. It's a great trio.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, I don't know. That's tough one. That's a tough one.
I'd probably go with Perreault.
Yeah. For tonight's games, who do you like between the Capitals and the Leafs?
Where's the game being played? Is it Leafs in DC?
It's in DC.
It's in DC?
Yeah.
Man, Leafs coming off a loss 3-0. They're looking to bounce back on a back-to-back. Washington at home. I mean, look, I took the home team last time when this happened, where the Leafs got trounced by, they lost 1-0 to Montreal, and then they came in and beat up on Jersey. I think Toronto wins this game tonight. I think you're going to see a good Toronto team tonight.
Yeah, because like you mentioned, they got shut out last night. Do the Leafs though? Do they give you does this version of the Leafs give you the same vibes as other iterations?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Nothing's changed with this team. They still have holes. They still have bad habits. They're still, like, at times you see it's great. It's structural. All things have changed. And in the next game, it's come back to what it was. This team, you and I talked about this in Vegas when Marc was with us, right? This team needs a complete and major overhaul.
I agree. I agree.
Complete and major overhaul.
I am still surprised it didn't happen this offseason. You would have thought that finally they're gonna go scorched earth. They're gonna break up the core four.
Nope.
I mean, and granted, not to defend Brad Treliving, but it was hard for him to do that because clearly Matthews and Nylander were going nowhere, and then Tavares and Marner had the no movement clauses. So,
and they were both entering the final year of their deals anyway. So,
I don't know. I'm also just not sold that even though Stolarz is actually playing pretty well, I don't think they can win with Stolarz.
How long can he do it though? That was it. That's the thing for me. To me, he did great and he had great work in Florida when he was called upon. But Florida's defense and the way the Florida Panthers play is completely different than what the Toronto Maple Leafs did. He has stolen Toronto's games. Now, granted, maybe Toronto doesn't have as many wins or have as many points without Stolarz in the net because he's been their best player so far outside of William Nylander.
Yeah.
But right now, they just can't rely on their goaltending to win hockey games right now. They need to score goals.
Yep, they do. And I just think come playoff time, it's going to be – I mean, granted, a lot can change because the trade deadline they're going to do. But
to quote Craig Button, you harden your game now.
Yeah.
But the Leafs don't even look like they're hardening their game.
No.
The Jets look like they're doing that.
Yeah, I don't think the Leafs are a hard team to play against.
No.
I don't think they're hard to play against at all. So, John Radigan asking, is the fire sale on in Pittsburgh?
It started.
Yeah, Lars Eller, Caps.
I think, look, for me, I think if you look at it, something has to give. I tweeted this out yesterday after listening to my buddy Russ Cohen on SiriusXM NHL Network Radio.
Yeah.
This has been popping in my head. Kyle Dubas left Toronto to have full control of a hockey team and put together a hockey team. He's in Pittsburgh. The problem is he still doesn't have full control because the edict from ownership is be competitive with those guys. The problem is the team's not competitive. Yeah. And the Kevin Hayes, the Matt Grzelcyk, the poor return for Jake Getzel, the decision making of this ownership group has put the Pittsburgh Penguins in this position. You're going to see more trades like Lars Eller, right?
Yeah.
The big question is can they convince? I don't think it's going to be Crosby, but can you and I don't know if it's going to be Letang because of the injury concerns in the contract. But can you convince either Malkin or Erik Karlsson that they need to be moved?
Yeah, I mean, this was the next question. You guys think Malkin gets dealt? And, I'll start there. I mean, Kyle Dubas did say that everyone is available aside from Crosby, but I don't think Malkin – I think Malkin feels similar to Crosby. I think he wants to be a Pittsburgh Penguin for life. I don't know if he wants to go anywhere. I mean –
But does he?
Yeah. I mean, when Ron Hextall was still the general manager of the Penguins, and it looked like Malkin actually might go to free agency, and they kind of got something done last minute. Malkin would said that he was upset by it, that how they didn't prioritize him, how they didn't sign him. He wanted to be a Penguin.
So little tidbit on that is because ownership stepped in at the last minute because Ron Hextall and Brian Burke and Ron Hextall wanted to let him go.
Yeah.
They wanted to start the rebuild and retool then.
Yep.
And they weren't allowed to do it.
Yeah. No, and that's why Hextall gets a lot of flack from Penguins fans. But honestly, his vision was right. They probably should have let Letang and Malkin go.
You pick one of them. You pick one of them. Yeah. You could have let both go. That's fine. But I think I would have kept Letang just because of the defense aspect of it. But you should have let Malkin go at that time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, as far as they trade him now, I don't know. I think
you can move him in the offseason, though. I think if this team really struggles, I think he may want to go try to chase one more cup.
Yeah, it's possible, but I don't think that's a move that would happen now.
No, I don't think so. Not now.
I think if they're really abysmal come the trade deadline, I think Dubas might approach him and at least ask and put the ball in his court and see what he says. But I don't know. I just think that the Penguins should have gone through a rebuild a couple of years ago, and unfortunately now, I mean, like Erik Karlsson, who's taking that contract.
Well, here's the thing: if you look at the contract,
Yeah,
his cap hit isn't terrible because of the signing bonus money that's going to be handed out on July 1st.
yeah.
Right? The cap hit isn't that terrible, so you could do it.
I just don't know. I mean, his game isn't what it.
Well, I mean, look, this was the issue for me when he did this. We all knew Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson didn't work in San Jose.
Yeah.
We tried to play fantasy hockey there; it didn't work.
Yeah.
Once Burns went to Carolina, Erik Karlsson was the guy we saw in Ottawa.
Yeah,
We tried to do it again in Pittsburgh, but there's only one puck for so many guys, and Erik Karlsson is a liability defensively.
He is. He absolutely is. And this is another one. Dubas is on the hook for this because Dubas is the one.
Well, I'll say this: while Dubas is on the hook for Jari, Mike Sullivan's in love with Tristan Jari.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking
5 years at five and change was not because you heard the same thing I heard that summer. He was out the door. Like everybody's like, oh, he's gone, he's not coming back. And then he signs him. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I know. He's not. I think everyone knew that he's not a viable starting goaltender.
No.
Yet they handed him. It would have been different if they gave him if Dubas kind of wanted to evaluate him.
2-3 years, 2-3 year deal. I would have been okay with
5 years. That was just a joke.
Too much.
Chrono Kenny saying called the Mika being washed last year and knew he needed to be gone this offseason along with Trouba. Saw this one coming from a mile away. I mean, whether or not Mika's I don't know if we're officially there to say he's washed. I think right now he's
struggling.
He's certainly playing like it, but there kind of is a fuel for speculation to say he is based on his production last year.
I mean, I look at the go ahead. Sorry,
because he wasn't good last year either, and now this year he's playing even worse. I mean, is it possible that he literally just is one of those players that fell off a cliff, like no warning signs? It was just good, and then all of a sudden bad, or is he just fighting something? I don't know.
I mean, we said the same thing about Ovechkin, right? It's like, all right. I mean, the goal total was really, really high. Has a dip. Is this the end of it? And he bounces back with back-to-back 40-goal seasons. Yep. And he wins another rocket. Look, sometimes the players and Father Time just takes the player down like this and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the turnover last night that led to the Jets goal, the Kyle Connor goal, was inexcusable. Yeah. That should have put him on the bench the rest of the game. Yeah. Like, if I was coaching, I'm like, you're making a backhand pass to who? Yeah. Like, no, you're sitting on the bench the rest of the game. Like, that's not acceptable from a number one center.
No.
So, and then, look, the Rangers fought back in that game. Is he fighting something? Yeah, I think every player fights something. If he can't get out of it, and it's like this the rest of the year, and then he doesn't have and say the start of next season's the same thing, you could say he's washed.
Yeah. I mean, he's saying, that he's a net negative in all aspects. And, I mean, it's hard to argue that. I mean,
it is hard to argue at.
His 5-on-5 production last year was not good. The majority of his points came on the man advantage. And, even the game against the Islanders where he had 3 assists, there was a shorthanded one, a power play one, and then I think when the Islanders had the goalie pulled. So,
empty netter.
Yeah, he's not doing anything 5-on-5. He's not.
No, not good enough. Not good enough when you're supposed number one center. Yeah. Now, the question is do the Rangers really have somebody that's complementary to his game and Chris Kreider's game? And that's the reason that they're struggling.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Riley Smith is on that line, and Riley Smith isn't exactly.
Nah, not top line. He's not top line. He's not top. Not top. No, he's not a mover. Yeah. Not a needle mover there.
Yeah. Dave's saying at least you used to be able to count on Mika defensively, but he's not really performing in that aspect either. right now.
Yeah, it's tough for the Rangers. It's a tough watch if you're a Ranger fan. But again, I go back to what I said before, and I'm going to stand by the statement until it proves me wrong. The last couple of stops Peter Laviolette's been at, the second year has always been a telling year for him and his system.
Yeah. No, that's true.
No, very true, very true. I mean, look, these are great points. I'm just telling you as a player, sometimes like guys it takes a while to get out of this thing. I mean, finally, Jonathan Huberdeau is looking like the player that put up 115 points.
Yeah. And you know what, the other thing too that's at play here is there's some talking not just about him being in a slump, but is it related to how much he wants it? And like, does he even really want it? And, you know, Sean Avery kind of touched on that early in the season when he torched him in the video where he said Zibanejad acting like he's it's the summertime and he's DJing in Ibiza somewhere. Which was just hilarious. There's something to that because, you know, apparently Zibanejad is into music and DJing, and there are some that are just kind of questioning his drive. Does he still have the drive to be, you got all these alternative. You have all these alternative things. You see it in all these other sports too. All these guys want to do different things. Yeah, and the drive's not there anymore. It might. Yeah, some guys. You know, I mean, let's face it. I think the majority of NHL players obviously love the game, but then I think there are probably a handful of players that, you know, like for instance, Alexander Daig. He was immensely talented, but hockey truly wasn't like, you know, his real love. You know, he was into fashion and dabbling and acting, and you know, so there's some guys that he might not. He just might just kind of be like, hey, he's just doing it for a paycheck. You know,
I think everybody's body language is bad on this team right now. I will say that. I think a lot of people's body language is bad right now. And it's not just Zibanejad. I think a lot of players' body language is. And again, it's culture. It's setting a tone. It's coming. Again, I'll go back to the previous statements from the beginning of the show. When you're captain and you're leader of this team, and he knows, you know, he's been in all these trade rumors, so he's going to come out and say it. But when your captain of your team comes out and says this is the last dance for this group, that's not good. Can't have three turnovers and at least at 3 goals.
I think it was on the power play. He got that pass. And he just totally just missed. He just shanked it. And like, you know, the Mika Zibanejad 2 years ago would just rocketed that right into the net.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally looked like I don't know. So, yeah. He's saying our top center is cooked, and you know maybe he is. But you know, if he doesn't pull together, that's a big because the Rangers aren't the deepest team at the center ice position. You know, they're not. So if Mika Zibanejad isn't giving them anything, that hurts them immensely. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens here. But Jim, I think I'm gonna head off. I have to do some duties now. But it was great. It was great having you on. It was great doing the show. We'll definitely have to have you on more often, even when Marc and Philk are here. So thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on, and like I said, we'll collaborate and do something again in short order.
Absolutely, man. Anthony, always a pleasure to be here. Always glad to fill in on the co-pilot's chair. Thank you guys. Always a pleasure to be here, whether it's a guest or not, co-host, whatever. Whatever you need me for, love to be here. Love talking hockey with you guys. Great discussion as always. Fans, you guys are the greatest. Keep the questions and comments flowing in. Great discussion today, everybody.
Yep, and I think talk to Marc because I think next week I'm gonna be away, so maybe you can hop on with Marc and Phil can kind of fill in again. So
I'd love to do it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Take it easy.
We'll see you next week.